Hey guys, in this video tutorial, I'm going to go over how to add a tattoo or lettering on the skin in a realistic way, including adding texture from the underlying skin layer on top of the words. So let's get started. I have my image here and I wanted to add tattoo looking words all over my skin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import some text. As you can see, this word says abandoned and it's black letters on a white background. Now I'm going to go over here and change the layer or the blending mode for this layer to multiply. And what that simply does is it removes the white and leaves you with just the black lettering. Now I'm going to take my move tool and I'm going to place this word somewhere on the subject. I think I want it somewhere like that. Now to create a little bit more realistic view, you'll want to wrap the text around whatever part of the body that you want it on. So as you can see, if I want this on my shoulder, it looks really funny having this word straight on my shoulder, when in fact the shoulder is more rounded. So if you go up here, you'll click on your warp tool, and this will allow you to drag these points in different angles to start warping or messing with this text. Now, I believe I want to push this up a little bit and kind of extend it down. And it might take a minute to get this just right. Okay, that is looking not as good as I thought it would. Give me a second. We're just gonna, again, play around with this a little bit. I'm just squishing the words in a way that it kind of wraps around the skin the best way possible. And that actually looks pretty good to me. So I'm gonna hit enter. And now we have our word over the skin. If you zoom in here though, the word looks a little out of place. I think it's a little too sharp and there's no texture on it. And so I'm going to show you how to add texture to that to make it look a little bit more realistic in Photoshop. So now that we have our word layer here and our underlying layer of the subject, we're actually going to flatten the image. And if you're working in Photoshop and you have several layers underneath, I wouldn't necessarily recommend flattening the whole image, but rather creating what's called a stamp image. And that you can do that by holding Function, Option, Command, Shift, E on a Mac, or Control, Alt, Shift, E on a PC. What that simply does is it takes all of the layers that you've been working on or have underneath and creates a stamped visible layer. So if I turn off all these underlying layers, you'll notice that nothing's changed because this top layer is now a combination of everything that I've done in Photoshop up to this point. Okay, now that we have this layer, we're going to hit Command or Control J 2 times to create 2 different copies. We're going to hide the top copy and we're going to work on this second copy. By the way, how we're going to add texture onto this word is by doing what's called frequency separation. And that is a separate kind of tutorial slash tool that you can learn in Photoshop. So I won't go too in depth. I'll just show you how to do it right now. And maybe in a different tutorial, we can go over exactly what frequency separation is. But for now, just follow these steps and you'll be able to add texture on this text. So over here, we have our layer 6 copy. I'm going to go up to filter and I'm going to put a Gaussian blur on this image. You want to put just enough of a Gaussian blur that you cannot see the textures in the skin. So probably somewhere around 3 to 5 is a good radius. So I'm going to do it at 3.1. Now we're going to take this top layer and turn it on. And what we're going to do to this top layer is go to Image, Apply Image. Now, when this little dialog box shows up, you're going to want to change your source. Oops, I'm sorry. You're going to want to change your layer to layer 6 copy. This was the layer that you blurred the image on. And then we're going to make sure that the blending is subtracted, that the opacity is at 100, and make sure your scale is 2 and your offset is 128. Those are really important numbers, otherwise this won't turn out well. And if you click on your preview button, you'll notice that your image will turn gray. And if you zoom in, you'll notice that all of the textures are actually showing through, and that's exactly what we want. And so I'm going to say okay. And we're going to go over here and just change the blending mode of the layer to linear light. All right. Now, you're probably wondering, what the heck was the point of all of those steps? Well, that's where frequency separation comes into place. So by creating all of those layers and doing an apply image on the top layer, now we have separated our textures from our underlying color or tones of the skin. And so I can literally take the textures and apply them over these words without actually copying or clone stamping different parts of the body. That might look weird if you were to overlay that. I'm just going to take the textures and overlay it. So now that we're on our texture layer, which is the top layer, you're going to take your clone stamp tool and you're going to make sure that it says current layer. If you do current and below, you're going to get some funky stuff happening because it'll register everything that's happened in all of your other layers. But we really just want to work on this texture layer that we created. So make sure it says current layer. Now I have mine at opacity 52%. I found that to be a pretty good opacity for this particular project. You might want to turn that up or turn it down according to your image and what you're working with and how texturized the skin is underneath the words. Also, flow is 100%, and this is a very soft brush. So I'm just going to hold down my Option button or Alt button on a PC to grab a section of texture, and I'm just going to pick texture that is close. That is close or nearby the words that you want this texture to be applied to. So as I hold that down, I'm just going to click this texture up here. And then I'm going to paint that on top of your letters. And you'll notice all of a sudden my letters are getting a little blurrier, which I like, but also they are getting texturized. Basically, whatever we're picking up here is just getting overlaid on these letters. So I'm just going to take the nearby textures and click. Sometimes I'll click a couple of times to make it a little bit more texturized. That's why my opacity is set to 52% instead of 100%. So I have a little bit of control on how much texture I actually want to put on the letters. And I'm just grabbing all of these areas around my skin and applying them right over those letters. This is a before, and this is after. As you can see, we've really made a difference. It looks like the letters are just blurred, but honestly, if you really zoom in close, you'll see we actually put some skin texture on those letters. So now they look as if they were almost tattooed into the skin. And the great part about this is that we didn't mess up the coloring. We weren't picking any of the coloring around here. We weren't copying the actual skin. We were literally just copying the textures. And so it should blend pretty well and create a tattoo looking image or words onto your skin. Okay, I hope that video tutorial helps you, and give it a go. Try it at home, try it on an image that you have, and see the difference that it makes. Thanks, guys. Until next time.